Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Cheri McDaniel, a remarkable octogenarian author, entrepreneur, and Rotarian. She wrote, He Lay the Stones. Cheri, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be with you, Devin.
Well, we're thrilled to have a chance to talk to you. You've been doing a lot of work with your Rotary Club in oh my heavens, Swaziland and in Africa. Now, you haven't been there, but you've been supporting some people who are there. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Well, we've been helping 3 different countries in Africa, but primarily Swaziland. It's taken 4 years, but through a donor advised fund, I was finally able to raise enough money to buy 4 acres, 30,000 square feet of buildings to be remodeled, to provide a medical clinic, jobs training, literacy, economic development community center for 5,000 people living with none of those services. And through outreach clinics, we will reach out to over 15,000 Swaziland people living on less than $2 a day. With at the time I first heard about Swaziland and this project, they have the lowest life expectancy in the world, less than 32 years. And most of the, I think it's 63% of the people live on less than $2 a day.
Wow. These are extremely poor places, and it's tragic to think about the struggles that they must deal with. Tell us about how you raised the money.
Well, I took bags and beads made by the Swazis that the Reemers from Baton Rouge taught them to make. I took those and posters to every Rotary zone meeting, district, whatever, and I just finally had to make it happen. And so I told Darren last November to start negotiating the price. And we got the wonderful news yesterday, because things move much slower in Africa. But the final sale is made, and the architect that is donating his services there is on site as we speak.
Oh, that's exciting. So tell us about the operations that will go on in the clinic and the Economic Development Center. What sorts of things will happen there?
Well, it will be a medical center that will be able to focus not only on the strategic routine of medicines for HIV, but will also be able to focus on many of the tropical diseases, malaria, diphtheria, different. And these people were also drinking water. Their drinking water came from the irrigation fields, from the sugar cane, from the irrigation ditches. And so with safe drinking water, that will be addressed in that in that building that will house the medical clinic. We will also have the jobs training and literacy. It's a tall 2-story building. And then I discovered today, Christmas, when the Reemers were here for a short while, that there's a basement, and that it will house a dental clinic.
Wow, that sounds great. Tell us a little bit about the Reemers and how you met them. Tell us the story.
Well, let me tell you first why I admire the Reemers so much. Darren Reemer, who grew up in Maryland, got his first degree in Virginia and came to Baton Rouge to get his master's while working full-time in industry. And the first time he went to church with his boss, he became a convert to Christianity. And he also later met the woman, the nurse, that he would later marry. But unlike some of we Christians who don't go to work right away after such a wonderful conversion experience, Darren, with working full-time and getting his degree, started doing ministry on the buses in Baton Rouge. After marrying Teresa, and during those years that they worked with youth in their church, and continued other ministries. They had 4 children, and they did that for about a decade. But Darren began to question. He felt that God had more for him to do. So he went to talk to a member of a mission group, and they said, "Oh, you need to go visit Swaziland." Well, Teresa said, "I can assure you I'll never move from Baton Rouge." And he finally convinced her to go on a 2-week visit. And as I write in my book, Teresa said she cried the whole time she was there because of the many child-headed families with no parents who had died from AIDS. And so they wondered all the way back how they would tell their children that they were going to move across the world. But the older daughter came in the second day and said, "When are we going to move to Swaziland to help those orphans?" And there were other signs. But I first met Darren when he spoke. Now they moved, packed up, sold everything, his engineering supply business that he had successfully created. They sold their worldly possessions and moved there in 2005. But I met Darren for the first time 5 years ago. He came to speak at our small biracial, multi-ethnic club, Capital City Rotary Club. I call us the Worker Bee Club. I told him I'd never be an officer, but I'd be a grants writer and service chair as long as they wanted me. And I felt so overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine how they were working in such circumstances. And I asked him, I said, how is she coping? He said, she's about to break. Very softly, he said that they had not been able to come back for 4 years, which is too long when you consider the loved ones that they had in the United States. And so I said, Darren, you must come and bring Teresa so I can meet her. I live in St. James Place, a retirement community, and I asked them to come for lunch. And I knew, sitting at that table in our cafeteria that day, that our lives were linked forever.
Wow, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And how have you been able to work with your Rotary Club on this? Tell us a little bit about that partnership.
Well, we have a strong team there. And what I do, of course, I have an antenna up. I'm always listening for humanitarian needs. But they know that when I choose a project, of course, I have to sneak in and get their approval too. They know that I will put my all in it, that I will make the commitment, however long it takes, whatever talents it takes. But I bring them in as a team to feel a part and to enter into the joy and process. And just a moment, I want you to meet a face that's suddenly going to appear. Come on, Pat, say hello. Come on.
Hello.
Hello, Pat.
Pat is my coworker. She was the first Black VP of Blue Cross Blue Shield, the largest employer in the state of Louisiana. She was doing the diversity work, the reaching out to meet community needs, just as she's doing today with me. And that partnership, we've reached out in our Baton Rouge, heaviest crime and poverty area. We formed a partnership with Healing Place Church, with Hope Ministries that sit side by side on a main street in that area. We've even held Rotary meetings there. Then, just like we've done that here in our local community, we've reached across the ocean to help Africa and other countries.
Oh, that's great. Well, Cheri, I want to take advantage of the opportunity to have you to talk a little bit more personally about you. You've really become a role model to a lot of people who know and admire you. Who do you look up to as a role model?
Well, my parents, the values that they taught, despite the poverty, only we didn't know we were poor because we were rich in spirit. And my mother, with the same macular degeneration, advanced heart disease. She wasn't a cancer survivor like me, but she was a volunteer head of the resident council at a 13-story retirement community in Baton Rouge for 17 years until age 94. I called her the mama of the mamas. And Devin, I called her Torch.
That's great. What a great inspiration to be able to look up to your mother that way. Well, Cheri, I understand intellectually why it's so important for us to help the people in Africa, but I'm curious about your personal connection to it. What inspired you to take responsibility personally for that?
Oh, that was easy. After listening to Darren speak, there was no question. I had to find a way to help a couple who would, in our American view, give their all, give up the worldly gains to go and serve in such an impoverished and remote country.
Oh, that is a good reason. That is good, inspiring, and clearly, I hope Darren will be pleased when he watches this. Now, Cheri, we ask all of our guests to give us what I call an impact hack, a tip or idea that would help us do more good. You've certainly done a lot of good. What do you suggest that we do?
Well, what I first looked, because I have a deep, compassionate heart, I analyze the project, I listen, and if I determine that this is a project that I need to become a part of, as I've told you before, I stay the course, but I encircle, just like I'm reaching out now. The work has just begun in Swaziland, despite me talking about the 4 years of raising funds. Now I'm reaching out across zones of Rotary, going to training in Dallas and Natchez. I'm not an officer, remember, but I go and rub arms with all of those incoming officers. And I'm giving them an opportunity to share in the adventure, to help make their mark on the world. But it's easy because God laid those stones for my steps. And I realize that every single day of my life.
Oh, that's great. Well, Cheri, I know people will want to learn more about you. We've just given people a teaser introduction to you, really, and your book. Tell us how people can get a copy of your book and learn more about you.
Well, they can get a copy. It's hard to bare your soul, but for the sake of Rotary, because all the proceeds will go to Rotary. But they can go to my website, helaysthestones.com. There they can find how they can buy my book, but also they can find how they can donate. And they will have the instructions where they can donate to Capital City Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And I guarantee you, any donors that want to come and join our adventure, we will not spend your dollar until we've multiplied it at least 50% through the Rotary process for either global grants or local district grants. And we'll also keep you appraised of what you're doing to make your mark on the world along with us.
Fantastic. Well, Cheri, thank you so much for being with us today. You're just an inspiration to everyone. We just love the work that you're doing. And we wish you every success and a long life in your great work.
Thank you, Devin, for giving me this opportunity.
All right. Let's do some good.